Guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with the Getting to Know the Romance Reader tag. I don't know if it's a tag or not. Bree from Folly for Romance did this whole questionnaire thing on her blog, and it had questions about romance, how you got into romance, your favorite romances, your favorite tropes, stuff like that. And so I decided to go ahead and do the video for it. I know that Nicolette from Falling Over Books did this video as well, and so I'll link hers down below. I'm friends with Bree on Instagram. I typically interact with her on Instagram, and so I thought this would be fun to do. Give you a little bit of background about my love for romance. The first question is pretty straightforward. What's your romance origin story? And so for me, I have literally loved romance my entire life. I've been a reader my entire life, and even when I was reading those like super short middle grade books, I was obsessed with romance. My two favorite series were The Amazing Days of Abby Hayes and From the Files of Madison Finn. They were both about writers because I was obsessed with writing in books back then, and they both always had these crushes and they had best friends, and I was obsessed with those stories. Then moving on to middle school, I read those mostly in like 4th and 5th grade, and then middle school was when I discovered Twilight. I discovered Twilight from the librarian. We went on a field trip. I vividly remember going on a field trip downtown to the like downtown Columbus Library, which I've never been to before until that field trip, and the librarian there said, "This is a new book we got, Twilight, it's amazing, such a good romance, a vampire romance," and I want to say I was in like 7th grade when that happened. I was obsessed with all the Simon Pulse romantic comedies. Then Harper Teen and Avon had these illustrated YA romances that they don't come out with anymore that I literally read every single one from my library. I would look for the spines of these and for the romantic comedies, which I have over there, but I'm not going to grab them down because they're annoying to get to. These are 4 of my favorites. I have The Main Squeeze by Catherine Clark. This one was literally one of my favorites. It's The Boyfriendly by Rachel Hawthorne. It's with a baseball player, so my love for sports romances started in high school. Summer in the City by Elizabeth Chandler is also a sports romance. She plays basketball, and I believe he plays basketball, or she plays lacrosse and he plays basketball. I don't remember, or they both play lacrosse. It's something to do with sports, and she's like in the city for a camp. Her mom's a romance writer. It was like the cutest story ever. I've read all of these multiple times. And then Icing on the Lake by Catherine Clark. I definitely had some favorite authors. Rachel Hawthorne, Catherine Clark, and Elizabeth Chandler were ones that I wanted to read everything from. And then The Boys Next Door by Jennifer Eccles. I actually own the bind up now of that. I didn't own the mass market of it. Literally one of my favorite books of all time when I was in high school. I read that probably like 10 times. I was obsessed. It's fake dating. She dates a twin because she likes the other twin, but that twin she starts fake dating actually has liked her all along, and it's her best friend. So it's friends to lovers, fake dating. So good. I was obsessed with these tropes. So far behind. And then my adult romance journey started in high school when I'd go to the library and venture over into the adult section, and I vividly remember my first foray into adult romance, other than Nicholas Sparks, and that doesn't really count, is vampire paranormal romances. I actually bought one of them recently that I remember. When I read these books, they definitely were in the large paperback with very cheesy covers, and that is Kathy Love's series. This is Fangs for the Memories. I remember reading these. Whew. They were not YA anymore, and I love this series so much. I read every single one, and I still remember vividly scenes from it, and then I remember reading my first historical romance, and I remember vivid scenes from that too. And they were the first books I picked up that were adult romances in high school, and then I just never looked back from them. And then in college, I really strayed more from the YA and started reading adult romance. So that is my romance journey. It's been something since I was little. I just love the crushes. I thought it was super cute in those little 4th and 5th grade books, and I never looked back. Sorry for that really long explanation, but the next one is, what is an author you would like to write your romance story? I'm not wording that correctly, but then what trope would you ask them to put into it? So for me, I would love Helen Hoang to write me a romance story because I relate to these main characters so much, and the trope that's in both of these that I want is the good guy romance. I know that's not like really a trope, but I love when the love interest is just so sweet and adorable and just like wants to be nice and do nice things for the love interest. I just want someone like that in my real life, someone just so caring and that just like really cares about you and does anything he can for you. It's just so cute, and so I would love to be in a Helen Hoang novel and have my own Michael, please. The next question is, what are some romances you read and loved this year that you would like more people to read? The first one is one of my new favorite books of all time, and that one is The Gravity of Us by Brittany C. Cherry. I know people have read this. It was recommended to me, but I think everybody needs to read this book because it was just freaking amazing, and it's one of my new favorite books of all time. And then also Pestilence by Laura Thalassa, or anything by Laura Thalassa. I never heard of her until I think the end of last year when my friends were reading her, and they are really great fantasy romances. And this one's post-apocalyptic romance, but like kind of fantasy because like he can do things that aren't normal. But Rhapsodic by her is with Faye and a siren, and it's amazing, and I need to read more from her, and I want more people to read from her. The next one has two questions. So the first part is, what is your favorite romance subgenre? And for me, I typically read contemporary. I read the most contemporary because of the angst in them are so good, but I also really love paranormal, and I've been reading a lot more paranormal lately, especially with the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I will typically have the most contemporary in my wrap-ups. The next one is, which subgenre have you not read a lot from? For me, it may seem like I'm reading a lot now, but historical, I want to read so many more historical romances, and I don't even get to one a month. This month I've read a lot because of the used bookathon that I just buy all my historicals used, so I read them for the readathon, but I need to read a lot more historicals, especially like Tessa Dare, Lisa Kleypas, Eloisa James, Kerrigan Burns, one of my new all-time favorite authors, so I need to read more from her. I'm reading one right now, an arc of her new book, and so I just really want to read more historicals because I don't read enough of them. Number 5 is my auto by authors. I believe I did a full video of this, which I can link down below, but some of my favorites: Candy Steiner, always buying hers. Gianna Darling, I will buy anything that she writes. J.R. Ward, I will read anything she writes. Colleen Hoover. Brittany C. Cherry, now I really want to read everything that she writes. Who else? Ella Mays, now I really want to read stuff that she writes because I loved Marriage for One. Tilly Cole, I'll read anything she writes and not even look up the synopsis for. Elle Kennedy, Penelope Douglas, Charlie Rose. I just have lots of favorite authors. Number 6 is, how do you typically find romance recommendations? I'm a huge part of Instagram. I love the romance community on Instagram. I will link my Instagram. It's always linked down below, but I typically find them from all my friends on there and some of my favorite accounts. Lacey from Book Lovers for Life is also a go-to for me. She recommends me so many books, and I will go to the bookstore and bring up her Instagram and just scroll and see if I can find any books that are from her Instagram account because I trust her completely. She has the best recommendations. Goodreads, she has like shelves for every single trope ever and like hundreds of books in those shelves. So Lacey is definitely my go-to for recommendations. Number 7 is, any upcoming romance releases you're excited for. The first one's Broken Night by LJ Shen. The arcs went out and I was not picked to have an arc. There are a lot of us booktubers who were not picked and we're all so sad. And it's apparently going to be like amazing, so I can't wait for that. Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I have an arc of, which I'm super excited about. That's by Talia Hibbert. She also has an romance coming out in September that I'm really excited about. I don't remember the name, but the cover's gorgeous, so look up Talia Hibbert if you can. Also, Candy Steiner's newest book in her On the Rock series. I don't remember what the series is called, but it's like small town southern, and that one's coming out I believe in September. Gianna Darling has 2 releases this year. One is her second and her duet, should be coming out this month sometime, and she has the next Fallen Men book. I'm so excited. That's coming out soon. And then BB Easton also should be having a continuation of her Praying for Rain series. So I'm excited for that. Number 8. The question is, what are some misconceptions about romance you hate? So I did a whole rant video on this months ago. I'll link it down below, of stop hating on romance. And my main complaint, I came up with 2. Which have stemmed from some conversations I've had with the romance community lately. The first one is stop hating on alpha males because people really judge alpha males in romances, even when they're not even acting alpha. Like someone said Michael from The Kiss Quotient was way too alpha and possessive. No, especially from what we read. But if you read YA fantasy, which I love, how many alpha males do you have in there? They're in every single book. The Cruel Prince, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, both males in that romance series. And I can't say for sure Throne of Glass, but pretty sure there's in there too. And the fact that, Shatter Me, hello? People are like, oh, the guys are just way too possessive and way too alpha in these romances, and it just makes me very uncomfortable. But you shout from the rooftops when they act like that in YA fantasy. That makes me so annoyed. The next thing that's a misconception that I hate is that romances can't be 5-star books. I've seen so many people who are primarily YA readers, YA fantasy readers, they'll pick up a romance like, oh, this was super cute, I really liked it, 3 stars. And I'm like, but you liked it and didn't say a single thing wrong with it, but you gave it 3 stars. And they're like, well, you know, it's just a fun, fluffy romance, 3 stars. Romances can be 5 stars. If they're really good and you loved it, it can be a 5-star read. Just because it's romance, it does not mean it doesn't have the merit to be a very good book. Some of my favorite books have so much emotional complexity to them. The plot lines are complex, the relationships are complex, yet you still trash on it because it's romance. They can be 5-star reads. We will move on from that topic because I could talk about it all day, but the next question is one I'm really excited for, and it is romance creator shout outs of people you have recently found. And so the first one I want to talk about is someone I found yesterday. And so I wanted to find more YouTube creators, so I went to YouTube, did the search bar, and said romance recommendations. A bunch of people came up. One girl was like, my favorite dark new adult romances, and so I clicked on it, and she's reading like The Boys of Brayshaw High, Bully by Penelope Douglas, and Filthy Gods by R. Scarlett. Granted, those are all new adult. Those are not dark romances in any way. Those are all bully romances and not even close to being a dark romance, so there's misconceptions there about the genres in romance of people who never read romance that are giving recommendations, which I don't appreciate. So anyways, I'm saying that because I found another channel who loves romance, who's reading Ice Planet Barbarians. She's reading some fantasy romances, and I know she was reading On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. She did Romanceathon, and that is Avery Loves Books. I think it's Loves Books or Likes Books, I don't remember. I will link her down below. I've been binging a bunch of her videos lately because I'm trying to find more romance content. She's been reading romance lately. Like I said, she's been reading a lot of Ruby Dixon too, who I just discovered, so I'm really excited to have found her channel. She's been on YouTube for 2 years now, so I'll link her down below. Go give her a follow. And then I also have been loving Lacey and Lisa, who are my friends from Instagram who have joined BookTube. I'll link those two down below. I'll talk about them in almost every video, one or the other or both. I love them. Book Uploaders for Life and Remarkably Lisa. They've started their YouTube channels. I will link them down below. They're the best. And then romance creators that I've just always loved, Chandler Ainsley and Falling Over Books, and Riley Marie. I love them so much. The last question is for people who have never read romance. What are the first 3 books that come to mind that you would recommend for them? I have 3 very, very different romances that I think they would love. And so the first one is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is Fade to Black, so very PG-13, I would say. And it's just super hilarious. Fake dating, enemies to lovers, super adorable, takes place in Hawaii. I really love it, and I think that if you're new to romance, you would appreciate and really enjoy this too. Had me laughing out loud. Then we have one that's about to become a movie, so that's why I recommend it. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. The film rights were bought, and this is one of my favorite books of all time, and it's definitely much more serious, emotional. It reads kind of more like women's fiction, but with romance as well, and so it is a woman dealing with an abusive relationship, and it's really, really, really good, and I loved it. And the last one is for people who are kind of transitioning from YA to adult, and that would be Waitlist by Candy Steiner. This is kind of more new adult, and our main character is going from high school to college, and she is trying to lose weight because she did just lose a boyfriend. He broke up with her, and she heard people making fun of her weight, which she's never really had an issue with before, but she decides to hire a personal trainer, and it's her forbidden romance with that personal trainer, who's just amazing. And there's so much depth to this book with both characters, and it was one of my first Candy books. I think this was my second Candy book, and I loved it so much. And that is the Getting to Know the Romance Reader book tag. Let me know down below any of your answers to this and how you got into romance. I would really love to know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.